Again? We're doing this again? We have another gambling scandal in college basketball? A sport that's become no different than WWE at this point, because apparently nothing that we are seeing in college basketball is real. Headline at ESPN. Many college players among dozens charged in point-shaving plot. Translation: we have another group of college basketball players being accused of fixing games, losing on purpose. And some of these players, they were actually on the court within the last week. Of the 26 defendants in this indictment, 20 of them were college basketball players who had played and allegedly fixed games within the last couple of years, and 4 of the players charged have played in the last week. One of the defendants, Simeon Cottle, he was named the Conference USA Player of the Year. With this indictment being filed, I believe it was in Philadelphia, I would assume that the mafia was probably involved in this scheme. One of the things that the mafia has always excelled at, fixing games, gambling. How this scheme worked: there was a group of recruiters who would recruit vulnerable college basketball players. They would offer them bribes that exceeded their potential earnings that they were receiving through NIL. When you look at the list of schools that were victimized, for lack of a better word, by this scheme, it's not hard to figure out why these kids from these schools were recruited. Check out some of these powerhouse programs: Alabama State, Buffalo, Fordham, North Carolina A&T. We might suck at basketball, but our cell service is even worse. There was a school on this list named Bob Morris. Like I said, it's not hard to figure out why they targeted players from these schools. It's cheaper, it's more efficient, more profit. The kid making a couple of $1 million at Duke, unlikely to risk his career over $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. But the kid playing at Bob Morris, the kid who has a minimum wage NIL deal with the local used car lot, when you offer that kid $10,000, he calls up mom and says, "Mommy, I made it! I'm a millionaire!" Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the main channels in the description below. I cannot remember another time in my 41 years where I have seen this many gambling scandals in sports. There have been so many gambling scandals, it's no longer even breaking news. It's no longer a big deal when it happens. And for some reason, no one seems to be doing a damn thing about it. Every time I watch a game, I am bombarded with gambling ads. Matt Stafford drops back to pass. Puka Nakua's wide open for the touchdown. By the way, fans, DraftKings is offering excellent odds on Puka Nakua being a 2-touchdown scorer today. Place a $5 bet, and if Puka Nakua scores another touchdown, you could win $500. Wowzer, that is amazing! Couple of months ago, it seemed like the NBA was going to be devastated by another gambling scandal in their league. Terry Rozier was accused of fixing prop bets. Now, me personally, I thought this was going to have a detrimental impact on the NBA. But surprisingly, no one seemed to care. It was a major story for 24, maybe 48 hours, and then everyone just seemed to move on. According to Dave Ramsey, online gambling is the fastest growing addiction in America. More than porn, more than drugs, more than the booze. There is literally a gambling epidemic and no one cares. Why? Leagues are risking their integrity, leagues are risking their legitimacy to receive a few dollars from these doofus sports books. And then Adam Silver acts all surprised when his players are busted fixing games. This is always the case with gambling. Anytime you have gambling, there is going to be corruption. And the problem is, there's no way you can regulate it. There's no way to stop players from betting on games, no way to stop players from betting on themselves to lose. Terry Rozier earned over $160 million in his NBA career. If that dude can be compromised, if someone with a 9-figure net worth can be compromised, just imagine how many games are being fixed that we don't know about. If I had to guess, I would imagine that fixing games is a major problem in these smaller collegiate programs. Hell, it could even be a problem with major programs. Not everyone in college football, for example, is making millions of dollars. All it takes is one vulnerable offensive lineman to be paid off, outcome of the game altered. Question is, how do you fix this problem? Because clearly, the threat of jail is not enough of a deterrent. So, how do you fix the problem? I don't think you can. There's too much access. It's too easy to place bets. Well, KC, the sports books could put limits on the amount of money that you can wager. They're never going to do that. The books are in business to make as much money as possible. They are not going to limit themselves on the amount of money that they can make. I know sports books claim that they regulate gambling. I know they claim to look for irregular behavior, but one of the examples in this indictment, it included a $27,000 bet on Georgetown to cover in the first half against DePaul. Now, you mean to tell me there's that much action on Georgia and Paul, and they didn't notice? The thing is, most people are not problem gamblers. I bet on the NFL, I bet some on the NBA, a little bit on college basketball, put a few dollars on the games to make it more interesting. And for most people, that's all gambling is. For others, they get addicted, which, whatever, that is a you problem. But the main problem for the leagues, there are far too many players involved. There are far too many people on the inside fixing these games. So far, at least in terms of ratings and attendance, hadn't caught up to them. NBA ratings are the highest they've been in years. Here in a couple of months, millions and millions of people will be watching March Madness. But I would assume at some point, people are going to wake up. At some point, I would assume that people will realize that what they're watching and what they are betting on isn't real. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later on the main channel.